In this brief video I want to talk about the 4 campaigns that were led by Prince Drusus against the Germanic tribes from 12 BC until 9 BC. Drusus was of course the brother of Tiberius, who succeeded Augustus, the father of Claudius, the late emperor, and the father of Prince Germanicus. Now, the Gauls had become discontented at this subjection. That's 12 BC. The Sugambri, a Germanic tribe, and their allies had taken arms against the Romans. Drusus managed to forestall their action, using as a pretext the festival which they celebrate to this day around the altar of Augustus at Lugdunum. He summoned the leading men and seized the subject territory of the Gauls before the Sugambri could act. So by this he defeated the Gauls, without killing anybody. Now, after this he waited for the latter to cross the Rhine. That's the Sugambri, the allies, Germanic allies of the Gauls, and then he drove them back, he defeated them. Next he crossed the river, he entered the territory of the Usipetes, he passed along the island of the Batavi, and from there marched southward parallel with the Rhine to the territory of the Sugambri, most of which he laid waste, so he defeated the Sugambri as well. He then sailed northward down the Rhine to the ocean, secured the alliance of the Frisians, he crossed the lake and invaded the territory of the Haki. And here he found himself in great danger as his ships were left stranded by the fall of the tide. On this occasion he was rescued by the Frisians, who he had reinforced his expedition with their infantry and made good his retreat, since by this time winter had set in. And Drusus was a praetor at the time. Now 11 BC, as soon as spring arrived, he set out at once for the war. He crossed the Rhine and subdued the Usipetes. He built a bridge over the Lupia. He entered the territory of the Sugambri and marched through it into the country of the Cherusci as far as the river Visulgis. He was able to advance thus far because the Sugambri had fallen out with the Hatti, the only tribe of their neighbours which had refused to fight on their side, and had mobilized their whole population to attack the latter. So Drusus, seeing his opportunity, passed through the territory unnoticed. He would have gone further and crossed the Visulgis, but was prevented both by his inability to obtain provisions and by the onset of winter. So he halted his advance, and he began to retire. But the enemy harassed him with ambushes through his march. And once they trapped him in a narrow pass and came near to overwhelming his army, indeed they would have annihilated had not the tribesmen felt seized with contempt for the Romans, regarding them as already captured and only waiting for the finishing stroke. This led them to abandon the formation, and when they came close quarters, brought about their defeat. Well, after this reverse, they no longer showed much confidence, but merely skirmished with the Romans for a distance, and took care to come no closer. This emboldened Drusus to look down upon the enemy in his turn. He built 2 fortresses against them, one at the junction of the rivers Lupia and the Iliso, and the other fort was on the Rhine near the territory of the Hatti. So Drusus returns and he gets all these awards, triumphs. So now in 10 BC, the Germans, especially the tribes of the Hatti, were in some cases harassed and others reduced to submission by Drusus. The Hatti, it seemed, had quitted the lands of the Romans and had given them to live in, and had migrated to join the Sugambri. So he defeats the Hatti and he turns back. That's 10 BC. Now in 9 BC, Drusus becomes consul along with Titus Crispinus, and various portents which were by no means auspicious for the former were witnessed. Many buildings, some of them temples, were destroyed by storms and by thunderbolts, and even the temple of Jupiter Capitolinus and the gods who share it with him suffered damage. However, Drusus disregarded these events. He proceeded to invade the land of the Hatti and press on as far as those of the Suebi, but he met strong resistance as he advanced, It was only after heavy fighting that he overcame the tribes he encountered. From here he marched onto the territory of the Cheruski, crossed the river Visurgis, and advanced as far as the Albis, pillaging everywhere he went. The Albis rises in the Vandalic mountains and flows out by them, a great river. So Drusus set out to cross it, but failed in the attempt. Then he set up trophies and retired. So this was because a woman of superhuman stature met him and said, "Whither are you bound in such haste, and citable Drusus? It is not your destiny to look upon these lands. Take your leave now, for the end of your labours and your life is already at hand." It is a matter for amazement that such a voice as this should come to any man from the divine power, and yet I cannot disbelieve this account, for Drusus immediately left the place, and he was returning with all speed, fell victim to some disease, and died before he reached the Rhine. Augustus received news that Drusus was sick when the disease was still in its early stages, for he was not far away, and he sent Tiberius to him with all speed. Tiberius found him still breathing. After his death, he conveyed the body to Rome. He had it carried by centurions and military tribunes in the first stage of the journey as far as the Roman army winter quarters. And then they took it. They laid it out at the state of the Forum. 2 funeral orations were pronounced over it. Tiberius delivered a eulogy in the Forum. Augustus won the Circus Flaminius. The body was carried to the Campus Martius by the knights. Both whom it was then consigned to the flames, and the ashes were laid on the tomb of Augustus. The title of Germanicus was conferred upon Drusus and his 2 sons, Claudius and Germanicus, and he was further honoured by the erection of statues, an arch, and a cenotaph on the bank of the Rhine itself. At 9 BC, he died as a consul, and of course Tiberius, his brother, and Germanicus, his son, would take over the war against the Germanic tribes, and we'll talk about that in another video, of course.